how to make your lighting go from this to this. This is pretty easy to do, so let's jump right in. We can achieve this look by using the Gobos, and you can think of Gobos as a texture, as a pattern texture that you put in front of the lights to create all of these beautiful patterns to make your light feel more natural. So let's go inside the 3D scene, and you can have any 3D scene created to test this out. You can also test this out on the default cube. So right here I have a small scene with Steve looking up at something. I don't know what he's looking up at, don't ask me. So first I would like to create an area light, so I'm going to click on Shift A, Light, and let's create an area light, but you can also use the spotlight for this effect as well. Now this tutorial might be a little faster, as it's not for complete beginners, but if you're a complete beginner and if you don't know all the shortcuts and the tricks I'm using, then you can check out my beginner tutorial series, which will be in the description. Now I'm going to adjust the area light and put this in front of my character, also rotate it kind of forward, and let's change the size. So you can either change the size from here, so I'm going to left click and drag on the corners and then drag these up, or you can also go in the light settings and change the settings from here. So I like to set the size to something like 5 to cover more distance and to make the area light feel more of my 3D scene. And you can also take the power and set this to something like 500. Now, if I go inside my rendered view, first I'm going to go inside my camera, click on the rendered view. You can see that the area light is giving a pretty nice lighting on my 3D scene. And you can also leave it as it is, it's pretty good, but we can also obviously make this even better. So first thing we need to do is click on sprite and then change this to 1. So I'm going to click here, change this to 1, and as you can see my area light becomes brighter and it's going to act more as a spotlight. And another thing we need to do is click on use nodes. And then we're going to be using a nodes, changing a few settings to make this look a lot better and actually to create the Gobo texture. So first, to mess around with the nodes, you can either go inside the shading workspace, or what I'd like to do is, if you guys watch my previous tutorials, I'd like to go up here, right click, and then click on vertical split, and then split the screen. And on my left side, I'm going to go inside the shader editor, but if you don't like to do this, you can obviously click on shading and go inside the shading workspace. Now, after we clicked on use nodes, we can see that we created these 2 new nodes. And by the way, if you don't see this option, it's because you're probably using Eevee, and this effect mostly works in cycles. You can do this in Eevee, but I think there are other tricks which you should do. So I'm going to first click on the emission node, and then set this to something like 2. And while I have my emission node selected, I'm going to click on Ctrl T. So first, obviously go inside the render view over here to see what happens, and then click on here, click on Ctrl T, and as you can see, I have 3 new nodes created right here. If this didn't work for you, then it's because you don't have the Node Wrangler add-on enabled. If that's the case, you can go in the Edit, Preferences, and then search for the Node Wrangler add-on over here, and then enable Node Wrangler and then turn this off. As you can see, I have searched for the Node Wrangler before because I recorded this tutorial multiple times and I messed up and I had to re-record again. But who cares, no one asked, so let's continue. So first thing is select the image texture and then click on X to delete this. And then I'm going to click on Shift A and let's create a noise texture node. Take the noise texture, take the vector, plug this into the vector, and then take the factor and then plug this into the color of the emission. Also, it's not that necessary, but you can take the generated and plug this into the vector instead of UV, because we're not going to be using the UVs. And now between the noise texture and emission, we're going to create the color ramp, and that's going to create all of these magical patterns. So I'm going to click on Shift A, search for the color ramp node, left click, drag this in between, and now if I take the black value and then move this from right to left, you can see I'm going to create all of these nice patterns. And also I can do the same with the white value, take this and drag this on the left side to make it brighter and create even more patterns. And then after we played with the color ramp, we can go under the noise texture and then change some noise texture settings as well. So I'm going to first of all set this from 3D to 4D, and it's going to give us this W value, which is going to give us more control. We can change this W value, and it's actually a random thing that's going to randomize it, and you can set this to whatever you want. We can also take the scale and mess around with this. So I'm going to click on Shift, left click and drag this down, because if I click on Shift, it's going to drag on these smaller numbers. So let's change the size to something like 1.5, for example. And it's going to give us these larger patterns. If we turn up the scale, it's going to give us smaller patterns. So it depends on what you're looking for. Both of those options should be working fine. Now I'm going to adjust the rotation of my area light. And also, maybe I can mess around with the settings. But if you leave other settings by default, they should be working fine as well. Main thing you need to do is mess around with the scale, maybe the W, and also with the color ramp. So this is already looking good. You can leave this at default. I think his face is way too bright, so I'm going to click on the emission strength, set this to 1. And also I can keep messing around with the scale settings. And I'm going to play around with this and I'm going to come back pretty quickly. You can also play around and just set the settings to whatever you like.
So for me, these settings work really well, which is the W is at 0.8, scale is at 5, and all of these stuff is left at default. And also, if I think I have too much patterns over here, I can always take the color ramp and then drag this on the left side to reduce the patterns and still keep the nice lighting in my scene. And also under the preview, if you go inside your light settings and click on preview, in case you have this preview, and you're going to see how your light is looking like on the checkered floor, and it's going to help you to visualize how your light is going to look in the end. So that's going to do it for this tutorial. If you like this video, then be sure to give it a like. It helps out a lot. Also, if you want to get some of the files from my tutorials, like if you want to use the water shader, my walk cycles and run cycles in your own animations, and if you want to download those Blender files and much more, then you can join my Patreon for only $1, and the link will be in the description. Also, I've been using the BPS Rig version 4 throughout this tutorial, and the link for that will be in the description as well. If you're a beginner and you would like to see how to use Blender 4.0 from start to finish, and how to create Minecraft animations and much more, then you can check out this video right here, and I will see you there. Thank you for watching.